Welcome to What Not to Do. I'm Kyle Schmitz, and I've got Jon Martens, owner, brewer at Copper State Brewing Co. here in Green Bay, Wisconsin. He has one of the best palates in the industry, and guess what? He is going to tell us what not to do. We'll be right back. Hold tight. All right. I'm here with Jon Martens, owner, head brewer, main janitor, jack of all trades, baker, cooker. You've done it all here at Copper State Brewing, which is where we're drinking. Thanks for joining.
You're welcome. Thanks for being here. Having me. It's a pleasure to sit across the table from you. See you in here often enough. So
I know you and I have gotten to know each other over the past year or two, and it's been awesome. It's been fun, and I'm just really excited to be able to learn more about your story. I've learned quite a bit already, and then but to be able to take it and share it with the world, it's gonna be a blast. But what are you sipping on? What are you drinking?
This is a large breve with coconut, but I make it with heavy cream instead of half and half.
There you go.
Because I need my food in liquid form these days.
Keeps the beard thick, right?
That's right.
I've got the Three Peaks blend, which is great. And for those of you that are listening, Copper State is a brewery, but they also house Copper Rock Coffee in here, so it opens up quite early in the morning, and it's just a great place to come and have a meeting and hang out, or coffee, or a quick little snack in the morning and to go. So
yeah, proudly serving Copper Rock Coffee from my brother-in-law's roast.
Yeah.
So
awesome. Well, that's good stuff. One of my favorite places in the area, which is cool. So if you're ever in Green Bay, Wisconsin, got to come to Copper State Brewing Co. anytime between 6:30 and 9 p.m. or 10 p.m.
10 p.m.
10 p.m.
Kitchen
Awesome.
Closes at 9, but you can hang out for a while afterwards.
There you go. So Jon, tell me a little bit more about who you are and what it is that you do, and just to give our listeners just some context and a familiar face, if you will.
Sure. That was always the $1 million question when people would ask me where I was from. Where are you from? I grew up a missionary's kid in the Caribbean, but my dad was originally from Door County, so I have Wisconsin roots. Spent some time in school in Minnesota, then came back. I was studying to be a pastor.
Okay.
Then I moved to Wisconsin with my wife. And
most
studied.
pastors that decide not to be pastors, they become brewers.
Yeah, that sounds about right? Yeah, no, and this particular pastor student decided to go into engineering.
Yeah.
So I went to Madison, studied engineering for a while, did that for about 6 or 7 years, and then always kind of wanted to do my own thing. So this opportunity presented itself. Up until the point of this opportunity, I had never brewed a single batch of beer.
Yeah.
So we proceeded with purchasing the building and the equipment, and the current brewery that was here leased it back from us for 1.5 years while they built their new facility, which actually was a really awesome win-win for both of us.
Yeah.
It allowed us to kind of get our ducks in a row, and allowed me an opportunity to go to brew school in Chicago. So my third time in school. We say a lot of people go to school for 9 years. They're called doctors. So from pastor to engineer to brewer, and then I came to Hinterland. Here was the brewery that was here before us, and we had worked out an agreement that I would brew with them for 8 months.
Cool.
So it was kind of my apprenticeship, if you will, learning on my equipment, so I would avoid the school of hard knocks.
Which is why you're here today, right?
Yep.
Helping others do the same.
So that's kind of my personal journey. In the meantime, like I said, I have a wife and 4 kids, and the business has allowed us to. It's crazy, but at the same time, I get to see them throughout the day because they're here, and it's a family-owned business in the most rudimentary sense of the term. So
Yeah, I think that's one of the coolest things I've seen is, and we've talked about this before, but for our listeners that don't know, you maybe haven't been into Copper State. you got 4 awesome kids, 3 boys and a girl, and you homeschool them. But part of that is the reason that they're helping to build a business, right? And they help out. It's really neat. And they're younger, but you're already teaching them concepts about business and customer service and sales and entrepreneurship and how it all works behind the scenes. And man, it's just amazing to think how much they're gleaning from you now, and then it'll be exciting to see what they do, in the years to come, taking over the family business or starting off something, their own new venture, that type of thing. But really, really cool dynamics.
Yeah, for sure they'll get to walk into it if they choose that path. They'll walk into it with their eyes wide open, right? So they'll have fewer surprises, if you will.
Right, exactly.
So they'll know what it takes.
Yeah.
And what it means.
Well, that's awesome. So tell me a little bit about why. So pastor, engineer, brewer, what was the why behind it? Why brewing? Why Green Bay, Wisconsin? Why Copper State? What's the pulse there?
Yeah, I mean, really, it was truly the opportunity. This building came up for sale, unbeknownst. It hadn't been announced really. My brother-in-law was looking for a spot to put a coffee shop in Green Bay, and found out about this building through a business connection that he had, and he had actually been here on, he said, one of his most memorable dates with his wife, sitting at the table that we're sitting at, and some Green Bay Packers were sitting across from him, and they got to talking to them too, and just the ambiance in this building and everything that was just awesome, he said about that. He loved this building. And so he found out that the brewery that Interland wanted to sell it as a brewery if possible. And he knew that he couldn't run a brewery himself. So I was engineering in St. Paul at the time, and he reached out to me and asked me, do you want to learn how to brew beer? I suppose I could do that, yeah. I mean, it kind of checked a bunch of boxes as far as a creative outlet, my own business, many of those things that I had been looking for that were lacking in my current job, that this would provide an opportunity for me to do those things. So we decided to make the plunge, and I say that it truly was, and uprooting a family and selling a house and moving from Minnesota and coming here and pretty much taking a big bet on ourselves, that when you're in small business, that is basically what you're doing. You're responsible for your path. You make the decisions, and if you want to grow the business in a certain direction, that's up to you, and the effort that it takes is again up to you and the people around you. So that was a big reason why. And truly, I think the people that were going to be involved in the project were people that I've respected very much and cared about very much. So they
had experience building a business.
Yeah. And there was a vast array of talents and skills in the group, from lawyers to bankers to tech guys to pipe fitters to teachers to small business owners, right? So all those skills pulled together, because really one of the important things to know is what your limits are, and surround yourself with the people that fill those gaps, right? So I knew what my skill set was and why I was being brought into the group, and I certainly took that challenge on and took it on very seriously. Right? Drinking from a fire hose for a couple of years for sure. Well, like I said, I'd never brewed a beer before in my life, so learning the industry, learning the process, learning how to manage a facility that was built for a much bigger brewery than we would start out as, and all those things. So,
but you're growing into it, which is exciting.
We are, and that is fun to finally see. All that effort kind of getting traction and moving forward. So
so it's exciting. So, and no one else has 6 semesters of calculus, right? That's what you bring to the table.
Yeah, I wish I could say I was using that a whole lot more every day, but certainly, each of those turns in the road contributed to who Jon Martens is today, right? So,
and not only that, but word on the street has it that you bring one of the best palates to the industry, which is really neat.
Sure. I'll take that from outsiders. I mean,
There you go.
I never would have proclaimed that.
Right, which is why I brought it up.
But yeah, no, I enjoy tasting the nuances of food, of drink, and just what I have in mind. Usually, what I'm trying to create, and the textures and the flavors and the experience, all kind of play into what the beer ends up coming out like. And hopefully, what I have in my head is what ends up in the glass, right?
Yeah.
So that's always a bit of a challenge.
Well, a couple of my favorites. I mean, I love the Swift, right, which is a stout brewed with molasses, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm a big fan of the chocolate peanut butter porter that has coffee in it as well.
Mm-hmm.
Probably botched the name on that one. I really like the anniversary beer that you guys did last year, the double whammy. It's basically an old fashioned, meets an ale, right?
Correct.
And it was delicious. So anyway, another call out. If you're in Green Bay, Wisconsin, you got to get over to Copper State, try the beer. The food's fantastic. It's good stuff. So awesome.
Thanks. Thank you.
Okay, so let's get into it. Our listeners have a little bit of a context for who you are, but they're curious. What'd you do right? You have a good thing going here in Green Bay. It's growing. It's exciting. It sounds like you've got a good team around you. So looking back on the years of experience, of apprenticeship, of building the business, what would you say you did right? A few things you did right.
Yeah. We certainly made a very specific point to pay attention to the details of the brand in particular. If you look at our brand, we had to spend a little extra, but we got an amazing logo done for us by a local company here, and we get tons of compliments on that. Just the brand consistency in general. It really looks professional, and it just carries this feel of quality to it, right? I say that just purely based on, not just because I'm biased, but because there's been lots of feedback to that regard.
Yeah, and I would agree. That's awesome.
And so if don't skimp on your brand. Like, just from the chairs in our bar to some of the aesthetic, the ship lights that are hanging over the bar, everything that we wanted to do was very deliberate. So there's no accidents here.
Yeah.
At least as far as our brand is concerned.
Yeah.
So that was one thing we definitely, I feel, did well and did right. We figured that's going to be what people look at, what they judge the book by, its cover, the beer by.
Yeah.
So that had to be right. Another thing that worked out, and I kind of alluded to it in the intro, but the fact that we were able to we owned the building, but Hinterland leased it back from us, really allowed us some flexibility. In small business, the phrase is tossed around, cash is king. Like, if you don't have good cash flow and you're a small business, you're not gonna make it very long. So that allowed us to, while they were leasing back and we were kind of preparing ourselves for the launch, it allowed us to help build up some reserves that we ended up using those first 6 months and part of the build out, and it helped us, make it through some of those startup expenses that you are coming, but it's always more than you think. Right? So that was definitely a benefit, a blessing for us to have that kind of situation. And at the time, I didn't maybe appreciate it as much as I should have, but I would tell people, I'm working for Hinterland and brewing their beer, and they'd look at me like I was crazy. They're letting you see their recipes and all this. And then I realized that's kind of a unique thing to the brewing industry too. Yeah. Is the camaraderie and the trust. Interesting. So there's 7 or 8 breweries now in Green Bay, and we have everybody. The whole group of brewers is on a text thread that if anybody ever needs anything, they're short a bag of this or a pound of hops or whatever.
That's so cool.
They shoot out a text, and we're always there to help each other out. So
it seems very unique.
It's less cutthroat than a lot of industries. At least that's my impression. So.
Yeah, or always, paranoid or anxious that someone's out to get them or steal their trade secret or whatever it is, that type of thing. And that's actually refreshing. It's cool.
Yeah. And that was one of the big things that drew me to the industry too, as I learned more about it.
Yeah.
So, the other thing that I think we did right, and I'm trying to remember how we decided this, but the industry was moving more and more towards what's new, like what new beers do you have on? It's almost gotten to the point where it's a little ridiculous.
How crazy can it be?
Right, where some breweries are releasing over 100 new beers in a year, and you think about that, that's 3 new beers a week, right? 2-3 new beers a week. And my mind, I'm trying to wrap my head around what that brew schedule looks like for those people. But we decided to put in a pilot system, so a 3-barrel pilot. Our full system brews 1,000 gallons. The pilot would do 100, and that really allowed us to do some of the experimental tip of the spear kind of stuff that I would not be doing if I had to brew 500 gallons of it and pray that the customers would drink that much, right? So we decided to revamp some of the brew house and pay that, invest that kind of money to set up that system that way so that we could do that. And it's been a great blessing to us. Again, that's how the chocolate coffee peanut butter porter came to life. Was started as a pilot batch. We've had a bunch of sours that started as pilot batches, and we'll probably scale some of those up as it's just a great way to test the waters for
sure.
us.
You've got the staple products that are crowd favorites, they're good sellers, etc. And now you can start to test. Hey, I think this would go over well. Let's make a batch of it, but at low cost, right? In a sense, and low risk. But then you can take and find a winner. Then you can find a way to introduce it into that cycle on an annual basis, which is cool. And it would seem a little trigger happy to be releasing 100 beers a year. And I'm trying to do the business math behind that, and even from like a marketing perspective, it seems like you'd be spreading yourself way too thin, rather than the approach that you guys are taking, having here are our core. Here's what we're really good at. Here's what people love, right? And then we're gonna have some fun, and then see what works from there. Have you seen it working well for some of those other breweries that are taking that approach, or is it backfiring to them? Or
no, I certainly think even with I have 16 handles here, and even with 16 choices, I still get the question, what do you have that's new? I have 4 pilot beers on right now, with a couple more coming. Okay. But for some breweries, truly, and this comes down to what's your brand awareness, what's your brand known for, and if people trust your brand, they will try your experimental stuff. Expect it to be good. Right? So if you've earned that trust from people, they will give you that, and then kind of build your brand for you as they spread the word about, hey, you should go try out this or XYZ. But no, I think some breweries definitely are seeing, most people have those 1 or 2 beers that are paying the bills that allow them to do the fun stuff, right? The experimental stuff, the barrel aging stuff, all the other peripherals that, what we brewers really enjoy. It allows us the creative outlet. So.
Oh yeah, for sure. So what would you say the couple best sellers are for you? What's paying the bills at Copper State?
We are probably just tipping into identifying what those are. Okay. It's taken a couple years, again, as we built our brand and people now are kind of understanding who we are. But I'd say the clear leaders are the chocolate coffee peanut butter porter and my Stilt Stepper hazy IPA. There are a number of other beers that I gravitate towards myself personally. There are a number of beers that have survived the test of time from the day we opened, that if I run out of them, our customers, I've had people walk out. You don't have that beer on, you ran out of that beer, and then they walk out. I say, wow, I have 15 other choices, but I guess I cannot run out of that beer. Right? So, we're creatures of habit, right? So we know what we like. I happen to like sours, and I like the sours I make. I'm probably a little biased, but yeah, that's what I find refreshing after a hot day in the brew house. So.
The pomegranate pucker is one. Yeah, I'm a stout guy, and like I said, I've enjoyed this with the chocolate coffee peanut butter porter.
Yeah.
And you guys just got that in the cans, which is huge. I mean, I was here, I think, the morning that you guys had made it known that it's in cans, and man, people were coming in just for it, which is cool.
Yeah, that was me satisfying my engineering technological itch.
Calculus,
I needed a challenge there. So the challenge with that one was putting a nitrogenated beer in a can.
Yeah.
We had been hearing for about a year, people were always so disappointed that they couldn't take that beer home because we can't growler it. It'll be flat.
Yeah.
Just the nature of a nitro beer. So for your listeners that maybe don't know what a nitro beer is, if you've ever had a Guinness, it's nitrogen instead of carbon dioxide. It's a nice creamy texture to the head. So it had to be on nitro to give it the texture I wanted for the peanut butter character. Right? When I think of a spoonful of peanut butter, it's creamy, it's thick.
You don't think carbonation?
I don't think bright carbonation. So we finally got around to setting up the equipment downstairs to do that, which required some investment too. So we wanted to make sure that we were going to have the sales to support that.
Yeah.
So
awesome.
So and it's gone well.
Good.
It's gone well.
Good. Okay, so let's pivot. So you did a handful of things right, obviously, otherwise you wouldn't be here, right? You guys would be closing your doors. But that doesn't mean you did everything right. And so what we want to do is look back and lean into maybe a failure or two, a mistake or two that you made that you were willing to share and talk about, and why it was bad. What was the decision that was made, or what happened? Why would you consider that a failure? What was bad about it? And again, with the aim that other folks that are looking to build their businesses, they can learn from you, or even general principles in life. I think sometimes often come out in these situations too, where folks can just take it and learn and not have to reinvent the wheel, which is huge. So what would you say, looking back in your experience, was a failure or two that you bear the scars of?
So for sure there have been many. As much as I wanted to avoid the school of hard knocks. So you always experience some of those, and you grow from them.
Yep.
We, as I said before, we put a lot of emphasis on brand and who we are. And one of the struggles, because we're a brew pub, that means we had a full restaurant. And there are certain nuances to staffing a restaurant and all the things that go with that are very different than just running a brewery.
Yeah.
And over the course of the years when we launched, we've had some phenomenal chefs over the first 3 years that we've been open, and each one brought their own character. But when we opened, the food we had was incredible, and it almost put too much emphasis on food. Like, who are we as Copper State Brewery? What do we want the emphasis to be?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, we wanted some really great food, but we wanted it to play maybe, and I don't want to say second fiddle, but we wanted it to be supportive of selling the beer.
Yeah.
Right? What we found is that from a staffing and a labor and all that perspective, we had food that was outstanding, and we became known for food, and then beer was kind of the secondary thing. Like, oh, they sell beer too, right? So we had to simplify that a little bit, and each iteration kind of has gotten us sharper and sharper to where we want it to be.
Yep.
So if you're planning on doing something like beer and food, if food isn't your passion, find somebody that is their passion, and partner with them, right? Yeah. For us, the space that we have lends itself beautifully to food, but it was becoming something that was a distraction from the beer, right? So we wanted to find a balance. So that was definitely a learning experience. It took a few years, and I think we're really hitting our stride now. So
would you say that would you say that when you're building a business that it can be easy, or at least other, call them temptations or distractions, will present themselves that will pull you away from your main focus, in this case beer, and the caution here on what not to do is it's don't lose your focus.
Correct.
Keep the main thing, and don't be tempted by the other good options that come up, like having really good food, right? Where it now shifts your entire trajectory, or has the potential to do that, away from your initial purpose and why you started in the first place. Am I understanding you correctly?
Yep. I'd say it truly is. As a small business owner, you're going to be presented with lots of good opportunities. Opportunities that, if they don't line up with your business philosophy or your what you originally set out to do, can become, like I said, a distraction and a detriment to what your goal is. Right. The food, like I said, the food was phenomenal. But for what we were trying to do here, it was competing. It was competing with what we wanted to do. So so maintaining your company goals and having them in the first place. If you got a business plan, I hope you do. And revisiting that frequently. Frequently, you have a 1, a 3, a 5-year plan. Revisit them frequently, very frequently, at least quarterly, so that you can keep pounding and beating that drum of what the goal is. Right?
Or even daily.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta know it yourself so that you can disperse it to the crew around you.
Yeah.
And about the 100th time you're telling them is about the first time they're hearing it. I've heard that statement before, and it's true. It really is true. And to be completely honest, you need those reminders. I need those reminders. I need to see what did I set out to do, because when you get into the weeds, when you're up to your eyeballs and fixing things and scrubbing toilets and doing all the other things that aren't making beer, right? You forget, right?
Yeah.
I definitely encourage people to just clear focus on what you're setting out to do, and then revisit that often. And it's fine if it changes.
Yeah.
But if you're going to change, you need to be clear on that. Be clear on that,
and then protect it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then if there's a pattern of it always changing, then it might be like, did you ever have clarity in the first place? Type of thing.
Yeah.
Cool. So don't lose focus. Don't give way to what is the truism? The good is the enemy of the best. Well, maybe that's not exactly right here, but it's saying what was best for Copper State was beer. What was good was having really good quality food. But if we're constantly giving ourselves the good to good, it's pulling us away from the best. I think there's a couple different ways to use that saying, but maybe that's what I want to.
Yeah, and it shouldn't. My statement shouldn't make it sound like we compromised on our food.
Yeah, the food's terrible.
Yeah, the food is just awful. I don't recommend it. No,
awesome.
But it was truly the difference between a food pairing that just complements people sitting down, enjoying beer with friends and family, and people that they're meeting for business or whatever, right? Yeah. That's really what we set out to do.
It's awesome.
So,
yeah, you guys are doing well. Any other failures or anything else that you might want to share? Any scars you want to show off?
And it's kind of, one of them is kind of unique to our situation, where you mentioned that we sell coffee in the morning, and we have a close relationship with my brother-in-law's business, Copper Rock Coffee, and their business partners in the brewery as well. And what happened was because we've got Copper State and Copper Rock, so the names already are kind of similar, right? And they actually were the ones who opened the coffee shop initially in the business here, and they were leasing space and running the coffee shop, and it caused so much brand confusion with customers. In fact, I had a conversation with someone this morning that I overheard them talking, and she kind of glanced my way because she could see I was listening, and I just kind of added the actual layers of what that was. We're not the same business. It's still 3 years later. We're still kind of fighting that a little bit, and I say fighting in the sense of it's not detrimental so much to our business, but sometimes people come in and expect Copper Rock's menu,
right,
and don't understand that we're two different businesses.
Yeah.
That kind of came about. The people who did our logo and gave us our launch brand wise, they gave us advice on that. Very clear on their recommendation to do Copper State proudly serving Copper Rock coffee or something to that effect. One business in the building, because they said it would cause brand confusion.
Yeah.
And we chose to ignore that advice.
Chose to ignore it.
And we made our bed, so now we lie in it. So, yep. So just again go get advice. And it's okay to not take people's advice from time to time.
Sure.
There's a lot of good and a lot of bad free advice and a lot of advice you pay for, but get advice and then kind of weigh out, what the risk is by not taking their advice or what the risk is for taking it. I mean, in this case, it came to fruition that exactly what they said would happen, and thankfully it's not too damaging to the brand, but it's certainly something that we ended up dealing with.
So how would you say that? So would you say that if you're looking to partner in some respect to some degree with another business, make sure they're don't blur the lines between the brands. Is that how you would say that, or is it would it have more to do on the advice piece when you're seeking? You don't just ignore the expertise of those that are giving it when you're starting. How would you kind of say it, or both?
It's both, really. Because when you're talking about brand. Again, that's a very important piece that my wife and I, we beat the drum of, what's the philosophy, what's the culture that we're trying to build here.
Yep.
And we try and emulate that to our staff, to our customers, and in the hopes that this is a culture we're trying to create, a place where people love to go, love to be, a place that our employees love to work, that we show we care for our customers and our employees, as in the same way that we would our family.
Yeah.
So, but know what your brand is about, and be passionate about that. You can't please everyone, right? And you shouldn't, because then your brand is really just, what is your brand, right? So one of the people that we've read quite a bit about and read quite a bit of his work is Seth Godin, and he talks religiously about building your brand and building your tribe and having people who you don't need 10,000 lukewarm followers. You need 10 that are incredibly passionate about your brand and will be your advocates, right? So that's what we want. That's what we're looking for. We may not please everyone by the business decisions we make, but the ones that are here are incredibly passionate about supporting us and getting the word out. So,
which is awesome.
So that's what I would say. Like, be very, very deliberate about how you create the culture and the brand that you're looking for.
Yeah, that's good. Don't shun the advice of the expertise that you don't have, right? So the expertise that's coming in, don't just ignore it. And like you said, doesn't mean you always take it. All right, so last but not least, if you could do it over again, what would you do differently? I guess another way to think about this is if you even to one of your kids or a younger guy was coming up to you and saying, "Hey, I want to start a brewery. Can you help me think through how I should go about things. How might you counsel him differently to help him avoid some of the mistakes or failures that you made?
Sure. Start younger. Yeah, no. My wife and I, with the 4 kids, there's certainly gleaning experiences that will be unique to their childhood.
Oh yeah,
right. And it certainly has its benefits. If you ask my kids, I'd say 8 out of 10 days they're happy when they're here. Those other 2 days are the hard days, and as a dad, as a husband, those are the hard days for me. When something breaks unexpectedly, or when it's just small business ownership. Go into it expecting to work, and if you don't have a clear idea of what a 60, 70, 80-hour week looks like, go do that for a while before you decide to take the plunge, because those will be the norm.
Yeah.
And so with that comes sacrifice, right? So family time, I don't know what a date night looks like with my wife, which is probably not a good thing. But yeah, no, if I had started probably a decade before, that would have been easier, let's say. Easier in some ways.
Sure.
Having gone into the professional sector, and I won't say gotten used to a lifestyle, but also be ready when you're small business ownership. You are the last person to get paid, so so you adjust your means, and if you're smart, you're living below your means, because if the business needs something, you need to be able to absorb that. So that's definitely one of the things. If I could roll back the clock, I'd start when I was younger. That being said, like I said, with the experiences my kids are getting, hopefully they're not going to be resentful someday.
Yeah.
So
no, I think it'll be awesome. And yeah, I mean, I think tell me what you think. It seems like sometimes people think, well, if I just had this much capital, if I just knew this much, or if this, that, or the other thing wasn't present in my current life, then I could go and do my thing. Maybe in 5 or 10 years. And I think what they're missing is the fact that life doesn't get easier. And there's always going to be inconveniences, or call them excuses, or seemingly good reasons why you shouldn't go and do it. And there's always risk in life. And if I'm hearing you right, it's in some senses you're saying, go take the risk younger, sooner, because it's a more risky position to not do anything, or it could be. Or if you're actually wanting to build or start something, life is not going to get any easier, and it's just going to get harder as you go, and you're going to be confronted with all the more reasons not to do it to begin with. And it doesn't mean that someone ought not to. It doesn't mean that someone ought not to wait. But I think, generally speaking, people are maybe just more afraid to initially take that risk. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I still reflect every once in a while on where we were, right? In Minnesota with 4 kids, with a home and what people would consider a stable job, right?
Yeah.
And for me, giving that up was sure. There's risk.
Yeah.
Most people would. I still get that response, right? You did what? But there's fulfillment in doing something that you enjoy.
Yeah.
Right, and there's that axiom too. Do something you love, and you'll never work a day in your life. Now, do I love every day? No. With every job, there are things that you will hate doing.
Yeah.
That just comes with the territory. But yeah, no, I would encourage people, again, when you're choosing to go into small business, or you're choosing to be an entrepreneur, you are choosing a lifestyle that it's a lifestyle, for one thing, and it's a lifestyle where, again, you're betting on yourself, right? you direct traffic, you direct the business where you want it to go, and there's risk in inaction too, right? In fact, sometimes more risk, right? So there's risk to take a leap, and sometimes when you compare the two, it's marginally more than not taking the leap. Right. So, and the reward is exponentially more, right, by taking the leap. So, yeah, I'm not saying be reckless, but
exactly
at the same time, let's not pretend that staying stationary it's perfectly safe.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, you could be whacked at any time,
Yeah.
And sometimes people put too much confidence at the mercy of others, if that makes sense. And they're kind of thinking linearly, like I'm always gonna have this job. Nothing wrong is ever gonna happen. My company would never let me go. And I think that can be a source of false confidence, right? To put too much weight in that thing, and that doesn't mean that everyone should go out and be an entrepreneur. But boats weren't meant for the harbor, right? They were meant to go set sail, right? They're meant to go and conquer the waves, that type of thing. And for those that have that dream, that desire, that life would be more satisfying. Doesn't mean it's easy, right? But you get up every day and you're willing to do the hard things, the grind things, because of your love for what you do, for the value you bring to the community, and it's worth scrubbing the toilets, it's worth mopping the floors, right? So, which I've seen you do in your time here.
There are no prima donnas here. The owner does everything that everybody else does too. So
that's good. That's good. All right, so Jon, tell me, in your life, who has been one of the more impactful characters, mentors, teachers for you? It's amazing because I think in our lives we can have so many different influences. We can be impacted and shaped by so many people, and I think indeed that we are. But I think if we stop and think about it, there's maybe usually only a small handful, maybe even just one, that has really been, more crucial to our formation, our success in life, our outcome in life than the others. They stand kind of head and shoulders above the others and how they've impacted us. Who would you say that would be for you?
Yeah, I can think of a couple. Certainly in my brewing experience, working with the head brewer from Hinterland, Joe Carls, just his demeanor, always smiling, always a positive. It didn't matter. It didn't matter if the wheels were coming off the cart. And, he always was a positive force in the day. And the guy never slept. I have no idea.
He's around beer all day. So.
Yeah, that's an interesting misconception, but I'll leave that one for a different time. But yeah, certainly just in his approach to a day in this industry, right?
Yeah.
But more personally, my parents, I've always been amazed at how my parents have taken on the servant attitude.
Yeah.
From helping in whatever way they could, from being a presence to financial to they're just very generous of themselves, of their time, of their talents, of their treasure, right? So and I've been blessed to be able to, with my dad being a missionary, we didn't always live right next door to them, if you will, right? And for a few years we did in Minnesota where we were an hour away, and that was incredible, right? We could go to Grandma and Grandpa's for a week and take the kids, right?
Yeah.
But just the way that they give of themselves and just live their life with a servant-like attitude, servant-like heart.
Yeah.
And that's kind of that approach to life, that Christ-like approach to life, is the way we try and live around the people that we have influence over, our employees, our customers, etc., our friends and family. So that's just always been the way I've approached my work, my life. If somebody needs something, it's probably been one of the biggest challenges for me too. Just because the business is so demanding, you become less available, right?
Yeah.
So, and I've always wanted to be available for people.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I've seen that. The impact that they've had on you come out in how you run your business. I mean, you've done pretty much everything here. I mean, when you guys needed it, you were up in the kitchen cooking, right? You've been back pouring me coffee, or making customers a drink, or you've been scrubbing toilets and mopping floors, and of course there's a time when there's a way to say that you ought not to be doing those things, right? And you got to be focusing over here. But the impact is that where the opportunity is, you're going to be the one who's leading and taking the initiative to do those things, to serve, because it's what's in the best interest for everyone else. And to have that mindset be yours, if you're constantly thinking about what's in the best interest for others, not just what do you feel like doing today type of thing. Mm-hmm. That's awesome. It's awesome to see that impact coming through. Yeah. Cool. So, fun question. You're sitting at a bar, you're having coffee, you're on your laptop, crunching some numbers, and you hear, some folks behind you. The guy says, "Oh, you should do, this, that, the other thing," and you just cringe. It's the worst advice you've ever heard, and you hate it every time someone tells someone else to do it. What is that bit of advice? You might say some of the worst advice floating around today that you hear. It can be about the industry. It can be about entrepreneurship or anything in life, really. What's some of the worst advice you hear floating around these days?
Yeah. Oh, you should be an entrepreneur, because then you'll be rolling in it. I think that's one misconception. Again, for all the things that we've talked about, just walk into it with your eyes wide open that it is a lifestyle choice. I hear, people talk about, I dream of opening a brewery, and they have this idea that it's always just, creating recipes and sampling beer, right? And I'd say 90% of my job is cleaning, right? Which is why I say I'm a glorified janitor. So, and just, if you're talking about going into the industry, understand the industry. When we bought the building in 2015 and decided to do this, there were 4,000 breweries in the country, which had already quadrupled in 4 years. It was about 1,000 breweries in 2012. Today, 4.5 years later, we're talking 8,000 plus, so it's doubled again. So if you're talking about going into this industry, understand that the market there's a lot of options out there. I'm not going to say it's crowded, because it is, but it's understand your industry and what you're talking about going into, and what your market is, certainly before you have this rosy picture of what your day is going to be like, and then wake up one morning and go, how did I get here?
Where's my big fat bank account? That's good. Yeah, so anyone saying that or implying that, hey, if you're just an entrepreneur, you're automatically going to be wealthy, or you're that it's going to be a get-rich-quick thing, or it's going to be immediate hit. We want to pop the romantic bubble there and say that's some of the worst advice ever given. Doesn't mean that you can't build wealth, right? Doesn't mean that you can, but I mean, realistically and even statistically, a lot of businesses fail, right? And that's something to, like you said, go in with your eyes wide open.
Yeah,
that's good. All right, so speaking of eyes wide open, you, my friend, in every major city in the world, in the New York Times square of every major city in the world, at rush hour, right, the busiest time of day, you get a billboard. Billions of people are going to see this. What message are you putting up there? What do you want the world to see?
God's got this.
Yes, He does.
God's got this. Man, if that part of my life wasn't grounded and anchored in my faith in Christ, man, it'd be so easy to despair. When just even these last couple months, life has been pretty crazy, and just it's easy to get overwhelmed. Overwhelmed with all the decisions and all the man, I don't know if this is the right, or maybe it's not right or wrong, but the better decision, and you got other people's lives in your hand, because essentially we're responsible. It's on my shoulders as any president, CEO, owner of a business. You've got people who are relying on you to keep the business going so that they can pay their bills, right? So yeah, there's comfort for me knowing God is near. God's got this. That He asks me to be faithful, and that's what I try and do every day with the gifts He's given me. So every time a customer walks in the door, I'm thankful for that. It's another opportunity to make that person's day and serve them. But yeah, God's got this. You don't separate those two. Life and professional faith, it's all intertwined. It's who I am. So.
Yeah, we do the things that we can do, and He does the rest. Honestly, right? There's only so many things that we can control, and then we plant the seed, we water, we hope for the harvest, right? Mm-hmm. But it's not guaranteed. And like you said, God's got this, right? Yeah.
At least the harvest isn't guaranteed that it's going to be for us, but He guarantees a harvest, right? So,
right.
So it doesn't return to Him without, causing the flowers to bloom and bud. So,
yeah. It's good stuff. Well, Jon, this has been so awesome. Really, really glad that we could learn from you, get your story, and I hope it's really helpful to others that are listening. If folks were interested in reaching out to you, get in contact, want to know more about you or what you've done, what's the best way for them to get in contact with you?
Stop in, have a beer or a coffee.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, no, we're here most days. We're closed Sundays, but either stop on in face to face, then I know who you are. Otherwise, email or text, but email is probably the most convenient, if you will.
Cool. Yep.
info@Copper State. We'll get it routed to multiple people, my wife, myself, and our events planners. So awesome. We'd all see it.
Yeah, I'll get that in the show notes. That way, if folks are interested and want to learn more and learn more about you or do business or whatever it might be, that'd be awesome. So cool. Well, Jon, this has been awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks, Kyle. Appreciate it.
Wow, what an awesome conversation with Jon. So many good takeaways. Here are 3. The first, don't lose focus. Don't lose focus. Man, this is just amazing. It's so easy, no matter where you might be in your journey, just starting out or and been at this for a long time, it's easy to forget why. It's easy to forget the main goals, the one thing, and you're going to have so many distractions coming into play that are going to be constantly tempting you away. And it's not that they're bad things; they're actually really, really good things, but they're taking away from the best things. And so, in this case, Jon says, don't lose focus. Remember why you're in it, what you're in it for, what your main goals are, that main thing, the one thing, and go after it. Don't lose focus. Secondly, don't blur the lines between brands. So if you're going to have more than one company, more than one brand in-house, make sure there's clarity between those brands. Don't confuse them and don't blur the lines between brands. It can cause a lot of customer confusion and kind of plays back to the idea of not losing focus, keeping the main thing the main thing. And third, last but not least, don't dismiss the insights of experts. And so in this case, Jon was given advice on not to blur the brands, cautious of Copper Rock Coffee Company being part of Copper State Brewing Company, and there's some customer confusion. Now, it doesn't mean that the experts are always right. It doesn't mean you always have to take the advice like Jon was mentioning there, but don't just dismiss it and really rely, especially where you don't have the expertise, really rely on those that do have it. Don't just dismiss it. Well, I want to thank you so much for listening to this episode, and just to remind you, this is about you. I do this for you. Jon does this for you. It's amazing how many folks are really eager to actually share their, not just their successes, but their failures, so that you, wherever you are at in your journey, you don't have to go and reinvent the wheel or experience the same kind of failures. You can actually learn from their mistakes, so you can improve upon them, so you can go further, farther. And that, my friend, is amazing. So I hope you find this helpful. I hope you found this particular episode helpful. If so, share it with a friend. Give us a 5-star review so we can get the word out and let other people know so they can be helped and on their road and their journey to success, to avoid unnecessary failures, because we're all going to make mistakes. We're going to have failures. So let's minimize that where we can. Also, I would love to know who you would love to hear on what not to do. Is there an entrepreneur or a leader or some kind of public figure that you would really love to have on the podcast? Let me know. Tag them in the comments, in the notes, etc. Shoot me a note. You can hit me up at connect@startwithwntd.com. Again, connect@startwithwntd.com. You can find me in social media, any of the platforms at startwithwntd. at startwithwntd, or visit the website startwithwntd.com. Well, it's been said that good men learn from their own mistakes, but great men, they learn from the mistakes of others. So go and be great. We'll see you next time.